right, are we ready, Mr. Manager?
Yes, Vice Mayor, we are.
Let's do it. So first off, I'd like to just welcome our guests today. Today we'll be having one of many workshops, I'm sure, and updates on the Shoreline project. Most specifically, you know, us, Key Biscayne, what I like to call Key Rats, are big stakeholders in this project, and certainly we have the opportunity now to see all the work that's been done thus far to help us understand what is going on with the Shoreline, what it's going to look like in months coming, and what those workshops are going to look like in the future. I think we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if that's okay with everybody.
Yep.
Just stand for just a moment.
Councilmember Kaplan, would you like to lead us?
I'd be honored. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome just very, very quickly, obviously, the Friends of the Underline, Mr. Ulyss Clickley. Did I say that right?
There he is.
All right, fantastic. Juan, of course, who we've seen, but it's been quite a bit, so glad to see you back. And a new face for me, for Javier Menzel. All right, and then, of course, she needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Our lovely Commissioner, Ms. Raquel Regalado.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You want to start?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. There we go. First, it's always a pleasure to be here in Key Biscayne. We're so excited about the work that the team has done. I want to thank Steve and staff. We've been having very regular meetings. We see each other a lot. But it's, yes, and in person, but it's wonderful. And for those of you who haven't been following the process, just to explain a little, today you're going to hear an update as to our progress. One of the things that we baked into this item was meetings like this, and we wanted to give you an opportunity to see how far we've come, the information that we have, and really a stress test of this idea of the shoreline, right? And there were a few questions that we had. We're going to be able to answer some of those. And this is a preliminary discussion with you all before we go out to do those community meetings. So we want to hear your feedback and have plenty of time to speak with you about that and integrate those comments and those concerns into what will be the public meetings where we start presenting some of this information. So we're actually here to present, but then also to listen from you all so that together we can decide what our presentation is going to be coming up to the public. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. Again, thank you for being here tonight, and we really appreciate your passion and you're interested in the shoreline. It's a very exciting concept, and we're excited about hearing the Underline's team presentation tonight. But let me kind of go back. I like to go back in history a little bit in time. This kicked off about a year ago, just about last May, where the commissioner brought this idea to the community. If you remember, we had the meeting up in the community center. Obviously, it kicked off some excitement. Last summer, we went through 2 meetings at the council, back and forth to get more information about it. Obviously, that generated even more interest, and the council decided to go forward and fund this project in the fall. After putting the contract documents in place, getting things set with the underlying team, we kicked this project off in February. So what you're going to see today is the work that's been done, obviously, before we went into contract. Once we went into contract in February, over the last 2 or 3 months, right, guys? And we do meet regularly. And then they're also going to walk you through where we're going to go from there. So, and I think afterwards we're going to open up for questions. We're going to open up for questions as well. So, please keep your notes. We've got them. I believe we've got things, and they'll talk you through what you can and cannot do on the roll plots there. What I'd like to do is first reintroduce Ulyss Clickley. I know Vice Mayor mentioned him. He is the CEO of the Underline. We got Juan Mullarat from Placerbia, and also Javi Manso from HDR. This is the team. They've got folks behind them doing wonderful work as well. But with that, I'll turn it over to you, Ulyss. Look forward to it.
All right, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I do want to give kudos to Steve and his team. He's been working very well with us in an effective manner, and it's put us in a position where that coordination has allowed us to present to you today the material and the progress of this feasibility study and an assessment. Now, just as a point of note, this is an ongoing process. So what you'll see here today is where we are in this point in time and what we've been able to ascertain and learn from all of the due diligence and the data collection that we've analyzed, but also some of the hard work that our HDR team in Plursorbia has been moving forward with respect to designing what you'll see here today in coordination with the Department of Transportation and Public Works, the Parks Department, Water and Sewer Department, and alike. And so as we present this, we encourage feedback. The conversation will allow us today to share with you how this entire corridor will be connected to major destination points. And as we move forward throughout the rest of the presentation, we do have the opportunity for not only questions from the general public, but for the council to be able to provide feedback on the roll plots and the like. And so we'll get right into the agenda for today's workshop. We are going to provide an opportunity to let you know about the timeline and a milestone schedule. And then the meat of today's discussion will be focused on the initial technical design with respects to the viaduct, as well as some of the intersections below the viaduct that's being planned. As mentioned, Steve indicated the study team that we have here, which is led by the underline. We are providing project and advisory services, but from the planning and engineering standpoint, Plursorbia and the HDR team are the main consultants that are providing those tasks and delivering those deliverables. But also, as a part of this effort, we do have a task that's focused on establishing a business plan, and we brought on Rebel, which is a well-known economic advisory firm that has done work not only with the underline, but also with Miami-Dade County, as well as the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust. And so it's a good, strong team that we have assembled here today. So to make sure that we all are oriented in terms of what the study purpose is, and this is a feasibility and assessment study, we have this fantastic concept called the Shoreline. At the end of this effort, we need to determine whether or not it is feasible from a constructability standpoint and a design standpoint to move forward to the next phase of trying to advance the planning, future design, and move forward toward construction in coordination with all of our partners. Also, identifying funding and financing, which is critical. We all know infrastructure projects are sometimes costly, but at the end of the day, we'll identify what those funding and financing mechanisms would look like, and then also identifying the long-term operations and maintenance needs and identify revenue streams to be able to provide a solid funding source for long-term O&M, especially when it comes to commercializing some of the public spaces that we're anticipating that will be available as a part of this design. We also will take what we've learned up to date. There's been quite a bit of planning work along the entire corridor, so ensuring that we're taking that output from previous plans and design work and data that's been collected to be able to leverage our ability to design an effective corridor. Ultimately, this is an opportunity to provide a mobility infrastructure that can move traffic more effectively, but also this is an opportunity to improve and enhance the public space and provide an opportunity to have actual beachfront that is residing in the city of Miami. And so public space management and the design of those public spaces are going to be critical to the success of this project. This is all undergirded by stakeholder outreach and ensuring that we're getting solid feedback as we develop the plan moving forward. So in terms of the timeline and milestones, there are 7 main tasks as a part of the study. Agency coordination and regulatory assessment. This is something that's ongoing, but we've learned quite a bit from our coordination meetings that we have on a bi-weekly basis with the Department of Transportation and Public Works and other county agencies that are going to be critical to the success of this plan and future design efforts. We've completed our technical baseline assessment, where today the team will provide an update at a high level of what we learned from a technical standpoint. And then in progress is Task 3 and Task 4, which is a feasibility and assessment report which will lead into the advancement and updates of our conceptual plans and drawings that you've seen previously. The basis of design report has not yet started because we still need to finalize test 3 and test 4 before we move forward with executing on that deliverable. And then we've begun to work with our financial planner and economic analysis firm to start to look at the framework of developing a business plan to identify those revenue streams that I mentioned previously. So we're on track. The next two milestone dates that we're shooting for is to complete test 3 and test 4 by this summer. And then this whole entire effort we're anticipating to be complete by the end of October. So for the project purpose, I'm going to bring up Juan from Placerbia. He's done a great job, and I think it has been in front of you all before, but we're just going to take some time to just do a level set so you can understand the initial design concepts, and then we'll have Javier come up and walk you through the various initial design elements to get your feedback. So Juan?
Thank you, Ulyss. So I'm not going to repeat everything that has been said already. I know that you already know that what the purpose of the project is, but I'm happy to report, at least as an update, that the goals and objectives remain the same. As we have been moving forward with the analysis that the new documents and the research that we've done, we haven't lost anything. So that is the good news. We are still looking at improving the key in order to ensure that you have a better front door, better mobility, and that the project that we are putting forward, the improvements that will be done, can remain resilient so that they can weather the passing of time and also any future climate risks. The most important thing, as you know, and this is kind of a bit of a recap, but has been to calibrate what we already were looking at, which was one of the most important, was multimodal connectivity. How do bikes, cars, pedestrians, and within those categories, those pedestrians that are going to the beach, those pedestrians that are crossing the causeway in order to get to mast, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea and the reason for this diagram, which you have seen before because it was in our initial concept, is to calibrate where those things are and how they work together so that we reduce the number of potential friction points that may occur with the different modes of mobility. As a recap as well, the idea is still to push the amount of asphalt that we have into a second deck in order to create that quick throughway between the Key Biscayne and the city of Miami, and the happy result of that is that we are creating, or we are recapturing a significant amount of land underneath for the enjoyment of all. And you know, again, we in some places we are recapturing about 160%. In some places a little less, and Javier will show you why these things change. Mainly because we have now more information about where the utilities are and where the viaduct can potentially go, and that is going to give us, or it's giving us, the amount of space underneath that we can use. A bit of a recap. I actually put this one together and I really love it, so I think I'd share it with you again. It's just 5 seconds of enjoyment of how this asphalt world can become something. Oh, it didn't work. I guess the video got cut. Did it work? Oh, well, I think that you've seen it before. Well, there you go. All right. So how it can become something other than car-oriented world. Still, you know, we understand the importance of getting vehicles through. It is a key component. In fact, Javier is the one that's leading that part of it, and we're ensuring that, you know, the livability around that component improves the lives of all and provides a new destination for everybody in Miami. And with that, Javier is going to give you a project update with a little bit more detail, starting with the technical assessment report that we've just completed.
Okay, thank you, Juan. So starting with the technical assessment,
giving you a high level of the evaluation that we've done so far, one of the key things that we've done is been meeting on a biweekly basis with the county. They're the ones doing the Bear Cut bridge replacement study. So we've been meeting with them on a regular basis to learn as much as we can from their study. They can learn from us, and then how we can make the two compatible, and that has yielded some good results moving forward. Here we go. One key thing that we've identified is in terms of existing infrastructure, there is an existing 102-inch large diameter sewer pipe that runs along the entire Virginia Key. That's about 8.5 feet diameter pipe on the north side of the corridor, and is going to become an anchor for whatever we do. That line cannot be replaced, cannot be moved. So everything that we do must preserve that one line, and it cannot be disturbed. We have an upcoming meeting with the county. They have promised to go out there and locate the pipe, so we have a better accurate location of where it is. Right now, we're basing it on as-built. We've digitized the plans, so we have an idea what we think the pipe is, but they're gonna go out there and do test holes and do a survey, so we can have a better accuracy of where the pipe is, and then we can move the corridor up or down depending on where the pipe is. So that is one thing that we cannot move. Traffic, we all know, the corridor is the sole source of access to the Key Biscayne, which means during any special events, there are traffic spikes that happens because of the Marine Stadium use, or the Aquarium, or any of the marinas that are in there. So that is what's also driving part of the decision making to kind of separate the traffic. True traffic going to Key Biscayne, and then local traffic going to Virginia Key and enjoy the amenities of Virginia Key. Bridges, there are two main bridges. The Powell Bridge on the west end. On what we're trying to propose is we're not going to touch the Powell Bridge. And then you got the Bear Cut Bridge that is being replaced. It's being studied to be replaced by the county. And like I said before, we're working with them so that we have a compatible, and for now, sort of like a phased implementation where they can replace the bridge and meet the goals of what they need to do, and then we can come in later with the Shoreline and then tie into what they're doing. And that's the approach that we're trying to make. And then meeting with them again on a regular basis, so we're both communicating and we know what we each are doing. So a little bit like drainage. Again, this is a Berry Island, highly regulated. So we're going to be looking at some of the permits that are going to be required. But the good thing about this concept is on the Virginia Key side is the reduction of a lot of impervious areas. So increase of beach areas for dunes that can allow for resiliency during a special event. All of that extra space that got removed from being asphalt can be turned into a pervious area that can be served as either recreational, and when it's a storm, it can also serve as a flood mitigation. And because you have the viaduct, no matter what the storm event could be, if you do need to exit the key for whatever reason, you do have the viaduct, so you'll be on an elevated section to be able to exit to and from the key. And then the coastal conditions, again, the shoreline being affected by the erosion and sea level rise, working with one that they has to then reactivate all that extra. And then I'll show you later, I'll go over the concept. It will kind of show how much extra pavement we'll be able to remove, and then it can be reactivated for all the purposes, including beach and coastal restoration. On the environmental side, we've learned that there's a couple of areas that are almost a do not touch, the petrified mangroves on the Crandon Park side, which forces us to kind of have a limit of where the bridge can be. Basically, we have to maintain the northern edge of the existing Bear Cut as a maximum limit of any type of improvements. Anything beyond that will present some significant environmental constraints, and it could become a hurdle that we cannot cross. We've learned that through the PD&E study of the county, which has forced their improvements as well to kind of stay away from that area, and we're going to try to follow suit. And then relevant studies, the goal is for this project to align with the Virginia Key Master Plan and the Crandon Park Master Plan. Enhancing access, restoring ecosystems, and improving mobility is the main thing that we're trying to do. We're aware of this aquarium redevelopment. Eventually, as we move on to the next task, is to learn what are the access that they have, the requirements that they have. Can we accommodate it? How can we accommodate it? And then can they, we're going to have a little bit of back and forth, and then I'll show you the reasons why that is going to be important.
Can I step in real quick?
Yes.
I just want to say something. He's doing such a great job, but one of the things that I think is important to mention at this point, and I think we discussed it a little bit at the beginning, was I think a lot of folks thought that the county had all of this information readily available. It did not. When we talk about kind of the county's approach to kind of whack-a-mole across like the Rickenbacker, so water and sewer has some information, these people have some information. So the team has done a great job of kind of figuring out everything that everyone has. The county obviously was looking at the Bear Cut and figuring out what infrastructure was there. But for a million different reasons, including the shoreline, we need to know the entire breadth of the infrastructure, the age of the infrastructure, the placement of the infrastructure, the connectivity of the infrastructure, right? So I think that exercise has taken a lot to kind of figure out like what Durham's doing, what Transit and Public Works is doing, what Water and Sewer is doing, and where everything is physically at. But the last thing we want is to endeavor in a design plan that doesn't match the existing reality, right? So it's taken a lot of time, and I want to say the county has been great. We've had so many meetings, and they're actually excited to have this information because they don't have access to this information, So everyone's like, wow, someone's actually thinking about, how people are going to get in and out of this aquarium and how that might affect, the Rickenbacker. So, I just, I don't want to downplay the amount of time and effort that it's taken to kind of go stakeholder by stakeholder. And the city of Miami is also kind of excited to know because they're stakeholders, but they have no idea like where the infrastructure is or where it is and how it could impact their properties also. So all that is actually making the collaboration a lot better because I think all of the stakeholders understand that now they're getting a more informed idea of where everything is and where things could be and what the status of all that infrastructure is. And definitely in terms of germ and stormwater, what we could potentially aspire to do together.
All right, thank you. Moving on. And again, just going to go over now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over computers. I'm going to bring up a PDF of what the bare bones of the concept is, kind of walk you through it. What I'm going to go over is going to be some of the stuff that you see on the room over here that later on, if there's opportunity, you guys can get up, walk around it, be around for questions. But I'm going to try to do a first shot at kind of walking through the concept and, time permitting, I'm just going to try to hit some of the key highlights and some of the areas that we've been focusing on, particularly with the Bearcat Bridge. Again, that has been an area where it has transformed our concept quite a bit from what was originally mentioned. Okay. Bear with me for a second. Don't put a timer on it. All right, it worked. So what you see on the screen here is basically like two panels. The top one, you're going to see black and blue. The black line work is what we call in the lower roadway at the Virginia Key, and then the blue will be the limits of the viaduct. And then we've tried to do some educated assessment of what will be the size of those piers and the footings. There is no engineering yet to the size of the footings and the piers. So we are trying to be a little bit more conservative on the size of them, primarily because of the proximity to the sewer line, which are also shown in here. That's the backbone of the concept, and we cannot impact it. And then the bottom here is just the lower roadway. So I'm going to zoom in and out, and then kind of walk you through it. I don't know if we have any questions. We can take them now or later. I'm not sure what will be the best way to proceed with.
What do you think, Javi? I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of questions along the way.
So maybe allow me to go through it,
Yeah,
and
let's
then at
ask
the
the
end, I can
council if
always
they
come
have
back.
them, because I think they're going to lose the questions as they go, but
I can
let's
stop.
make sure that we move. We got a long way to go. I think
Right.
it took us almost 2 hours. So
Yeah.
I don't want us to do it 2 hours here, but let's give them an opportunity to ask questions because it will come up along the way, and
Okay.
it is somewhat complex.
All right, so I'll do that. What you see on the screen here on the left-hand side is the Powell Bridge, and as we go towards the right, you're going to see here Arthur Lamb Jr. Road, the Bearcat Bridge, and then the Grandin Park Marina, and then this will kind of be the limits of the concept that we're kind of working on. Starting at the Powell Bridge, like I said before, here's the Powell Bridge. It has 2 lanes coming into the key, 3 lanes coming out. That will remain the same, no change on that. And one of the key concepts that we had, one of the key ideas of the concept is as we come off the Powell Bridge, you saw it in a little graphic earlier, is the idea is there will be in the middle here, there will be a left-hand entrance and a left-hand entrance. So if you're on a vehicle and you want to get to the lower roadway, you exit on the left. And then Juan and I are going to be working on a right-hand exit for the pedestrians and the bikes. So the main thing for this is to separate the people that are going to go to the lower key, to the lower roadway. If you're in a car, you go on the left. If you're walking or on a bike, you go on the right. And then it minimizes the conflict that the two of them have. And then as you walk over here, this is going to be all redeveloped into a different type of beachfront area, amenities for pedestrians and bikes, again, separating them from the vehicles. As we proceed going east, and I'm going to say east and west since it's the primary orientation of the key. As we come along over here, this is the entrance to the marina, to the Rusty Pelican. We're going to bob out the roadway, and this is where the viaduct comes in the blue. We're going to zipper out so we can allow the entrance ramps on the middle, and then we're going to zip them back in, and then they're going to kind of consolidate over the proposed roadway. At the bottom, what you're going to have here is from the Rusty Pelican Marina entrance towards the east. It's going to be a four-lane roadway, low speed, 30 miles an hour, curb and gutter. We'll have a protected bike lane. And then the only thing that I'm showing right now, this is just the bare bones. This is just from curb and gutter to curb and gutter. All of the other pedestrian amenities are not drawn in yet. That's going to come in later with Juan and the planning level. We wanted to first concentrate on the limits of the roadway. So what you see here is from curb and gutter to curb and gutter. There'll be a protected bike lane, 2 lanes, curb and gutter. And in this area here, we did draw a potential area for a shared use path because that's the area that we're going to need the space for the piers. So the piers are going to come out here, and then we kind of separate the traffic. I mentioned the sewer line in red right here. This is the 102-inch sewer line. Is right in the middle on the north end over here. It's going to basically live underneath the new westbound lanes. We're going to straddle them with new piers and to the point that we can go ahead and completely clear it. And then we go into a pier in the median of the road. So if you remember the typical section that we showed a little bit earlier, this is a very rough of what that typical section would look like. You're going to have the 2 lanes at the bottom, protected bike lane, curb and gutter, the viaduct in the middle, and then all of the pedestrian amenities outside of it. Okay? So this is the intended typical section. That's what the model is being referencing. Yes?
Sorry, are you going to still have the upper level bike lanes?
So what we're providing is a 10-foot paved shoulder. So if somebody wants to, and then the upper roadway over here is going to be designed for a 45-mile-an-hour roadway. The Powell Bridge is 45. The Bear Cup Bridge is being designed as 45, and then Crandon Park after that goes down to 40. So the intent is the upper roadway will continue to be a 45-mile-an-hour roadway, and then the lower one will be a 30-mile-an-hour roadway. So to reduce the speed, reduce the typical section, and then make it visual so that you can also slow down.
What's the column spacing?
The what?
Column spacing.
So the column spacing right now is, I'm trying to maintain it to, we haven't done a structural engineering yet. I'm modeling it on 150-foot column spacing to maintain a reasonable size beam. There'll be some areas where you might need to go a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. The beams will get bigger. And then this is assuming that this remains as a conventional concrete bridge. At some point in the future, when it goes into final design, there is a lot of opportunities for what this bridge could be. Right now, I'm trying to model it as a concrete beam bridge, so that is on the cheaper end side of the cost. But it could go steel, it could go all the things that we have to evaluate later. That would promote, if you go steel, it will be more expensive, but you have less columns. So there's trade-offs, depending on what you want to do. It wouldn't affect the feasibility of the viaduct. It would just change the makeup of the viaduct. And then again, on this one,
You ask council members question about the bike trail.
Yeah,
Bike trail.
just when are you going to go through a little bit about how the lower intersections and the bikes are going to navigate, so you can see the fact that they're not that the bike lanes are solid, protected all the way through the in-exchanges?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to, as we go along here, and if I don't quite get there, just stop me and let me know.
No worries, thank you.
And right now, I'm only focusing on the bike lanes that are attached to the road. The idea is that there will be a separate amenities out here, a separated sidewalk, a separate shared use path that is not attached to the buffer bike lane on the road. So those amenities are not shown in the typical section, and those are not shown in the plan view. What you're seeing in the plan view is basically from curb and gutter to curb and gutter. Okay. So if you see, so as we continue to move east, we pass the Rusty Pelican, we approach the Marine Stadium. This is the entrance to the Marine Stadium. Again, you can see on the top right here. We've been talking to the county whether this intersection stays as this type of intersection, where there's a roundabout. There's a lot of opportunities what this intersection could be. The county is thinking how it can be used for event management. So there's a lot of opportunities of what this intersection can potentially be and how it can be used during special events. Yes, go ahead. And then real quick with the bike lane, here's how we're drawing them right now. Here are the bike lane, and then just kind of coming across, protected through the intersection.
So those, at that low speed, those will be interchanges where people will have to stop and.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And then,
Rest the roundabouts.
and then also the traffic control of the intersection is up for grabs, whether it's a stop control, whether it's signalized, that is still, we may not be able to determine that in the study. Right now, I'm just showing what if there is stop control condition, what would the start would potentially be, and then most critical is if there will be left turn lanes, where could the piers be? Because if you see here, there's close proximity to the sewer line. So those are things that we're trying to look at from a feasibility perspective.
No, and I don't want to interrupt Javier much, but I wanted to at least mention that there's a couple of things. One, we're still looking at how wide those bike lanes are going to be, and we are looking at that right now because that affects how much room we have for parking. And we've told our team no net loss of parking, but we want to make sure that there's enough parking and that there is enough room for those bike lanes. Ultimately, what you're seeing right now is a snapshot in the process. And so these types of intersections are still being worked out. I wanted you to remember that we're removing 28,000 trips from the ground level. So from an events perspective, while there will be more traffic, there will also be a separation of what's going through and what's going directly to the event. So those are things that we're keeping in mind as we develop these things.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I was going to ask you that question. And you know what? One of our biggest concerns, not just for Key Biscayne, but anybody who comes out to the island, is what is Miami going to do with the Marine Stadium? We don't know, right? We don't know what it is, what it's going to be. I'm not sure they even know at this point. So that separation, I wanted to make sure that you brought that up, and really that we are now creating that point where people coming out on the road is no longer the issue that it is today.
And to add, we've been talking to the county, every week now?
Bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly. It feels like every week. With their engineering team. So, and this has come up several times. So it's something that's really important to all of us.
I will say on the Marine Stadium, Damien and I have been talking about it. I actually went to the city of Miami when he brought the item choosing the event provider. So, and we're going to be meeting with them. And one of the things we did is bake in the traffic plan. So at a minimum, we have one human, right? Like one group. It's not going to be like just permit here, permit there, So now we're working with one operator. And that the money generated by that contract is supposed to be going to fixing the Marine Stadium, which is what we all wanted, as opposed to just maximizing the parking lot and the money just disappearing. So that is an important, step forward. There was an unsolicited that was being considered by the prior administration for Virginia Key, we haven't heard anything about that. But we do meet with the city regularly about those two spots, and we are working with the county on immediate solutions to the problems. And we've talked about all of those, and we'll be presenting those soon enough. But I think the key thing is whether it's like the Seaquarium and try to figure out how people get in and out, to design it for all sorts of capacities, right? So that whether they have a small event or a big event, right? People can get in and out, and that's kind of where we're at. But there is a world in which the Marine Stadium gets a lot more use, but there's also a world, and we are working with the county on access by boat. So there's also like that other option to it, that not everything necessarily has to come, on the Rickenbacker. So there is, we have to talk about the manatee protection plan, but there is a study on water taxis and an expansion of water taxis that would bring people to different spots, including Crandon Marina and the Marine Stadium, by water taxi.
And I'm glad you said that, Commissioner. I think, once this contractor comes on, and like you said, a single point of contact, I think they're going to realize that if they don't figure out the traffic, they're going to fail. And I think that's where we can take advantage of that and make sure that our plan that we're trying to make deconflicts that traffic that we hit, every time that we have an event out there.
And when we talked to the county they mentioned the issues about the event management, and they will be dealing with a different condition. Right now, they're dealing with an intersection, dual left, unsignalized, through traffic, local traffic. Fortunately, with this one, the through traffic, you don't have to deal with it. You only have to deal with the event traffic. And then, depending on if it's a special event, you can queue up along the lower roadway, do a round circulation, while the through movement can still go and continue forward.
Does the viaduct extend as far as Virginia Key Beach?
Yes, it goes. The viaduct basically touches down at Bear Cut, so it would bypass the entire key. If whoever's coming from Miami that wants to go to the lower key would exit down here and go down, and if they wanna stay here and then go and continue to the key, then they would connect on this side over here. But if you wanted to just do it through and not go to the lower key, I keep saying lower key, but to the lower roadway, you would just continue on the bypass on the viaduct. One thing that there was a mention about the pier spacing. Again, you can kind of see here, it's 150-foot spacing on average. This could be reduced, but there's always a trade-off. Less columns means heavier structure, bigger beams, or a different type of structure. More columns means a column jungle, but cheaper structure. So there's going to be a trade-off at some point that has to be made. For now, again, I'm assuming 150-foot on average to keep it to about a 7-foot structure total depth.
So when they reactivate the Seaquarium project, the intention is for everyone to go on the lower road all the way through. Is that
if they want to go to, that's the only way they'll be able to do it. So they're going to have to go down, and then there will have to be special event traffic management on that lower roadway to be able to handle the turns, the through movements, and opportunities to, if you see here Marine Stadium, you can go all the way to the end of the key as a queue into the Marine Stadium. So they can get down, they can restrict the access at the Marine Stadium, go all the way to the end of the key, turn them around. So you can also use the lower key as event management, as traffic management. They don't have to turn there. So there's opportunities to do that.
What is the length of the area you're going to construct? Blue.
This is more than a mile. It's a little bit over a mile.
Thank you.
Of viaduct. And sorry, real quick, over here is, I keep always reminded, is this is the area that would be the pavement that would be eliminated. Basically, the entire existing eastbound traffic lanes will be removed and then kind of compressed in here. So the blue is the limits of the viaduct, and then the black will be the limits of the curb and gutter of the lower roadway.
On the question about the Seaquarium, we are also working with the developer because they have a new site plan, and they're very concerned about access. And we are still working with them. They see the benefits of the shoreline because they can see that we're freeing up more space in front of them. So from a vehicular or traffic management standpoint, there's more room in our concept to be able to manage traffic than what was being proposed previously. So again, good news on that. We don't know what that is yet. We haven't designed it, but we are communicating with the developer to ensure that we are on the same page.
Okay.
I'll add to that, that with the Seaquarium, different than the Marine Stadium and Virginia Key, historically, they've had people coming in and out at all times, which is a lot easier on the Rickenbacker than like the set point, right? So that's why now as they look at their planning, we're trying to figure out what's the egress and ingress there. And they're looking at different amenities that will have people there before and after, so that you don't have like massive floods of people. So they're maintaining that and then accentuating it because they want people to linger and leave at different times. So that's all part of the planning that's happening now with the county on this aquarium site. And there exists also the possibility of some waterborne on the other side also.
You said, I'm sorry, the last thing you said?
Some water taxis on the other side, yeah.
Okay, moving on. I'll try to do a little bit quicker. Mass Academy is another one we've been talking to the county. Intersection stays where it's at. One of the key things is to try to reduce the intersection. So again, you can see before they will have to cross whoever was parked over here on the students and then crossing over Mass Academy. This would be a much compressed intersection. Don't pay attention to this. This was me trying to be creative, which was probably not a good idea, of what the potential crosswalks could be. One would do a better job how we can do that. But I was just trying to lay out primarily 20-foot crosswalks, very large, very wide, promoting for a lot of students to cross over if they park on this side, and also to kind of see where would I put my piers, again, to make sure that there's room for the intersection, for the pier, for the turn lanes, whether it's existing turn lanes today or in the future, and then to continue to operate the intersection as the way it should be.
With regards to the pickup and drop-off, which is currently a concern, and were you going to ask that?
Ask you what are you doing with buses?
I'll say again, and you'll get tired of me repeating it, but the through traffic goes above, right? So it won't impact. But since we are doing this master plan right now, our team is looking at concepts of how to improve that. That would go probably a little bit outside of our scope, but and I have experience because I've done it. I parked on the swale, right, diagonally with like 20,000 other cars, maybe not 20,000, but a lot. We're looking at how to potentially manage that and see if there's a new way for Mass to manage that, especially pickup. The drop-off is faster. The pickup is where parents actually stay for a while. So we're looking at that. I don't know how that's going to come out. I think it's going to be better because we have room, but we still haven't worked with Javier the need for drainage in that location.
And how would you manage the buses, Juan?
So let me show you here. This is the existing bus today. There's nothing preventing you.
You're asking about the school buses.
Well, the public
buses.
Public buses that pick up the kids.
So for
Let me answer that. So the school buses, right? The yellow buses.
no, the regular county
Yellow buses, I still don't have an answer because we haven't figured that out. The other buses, we are looking at what NACTO recommends, and so we're looking at two options. One is behind the bike lane, as it is today, and another one is with a pull-out where the bike lane actually goes around the actual stop, and the pedestrians that are going to the bus stop actually have to cross the bike lane. The next time that we have a meeting, you'll see it in drawing, and it'll be much easier for you to see. But we're considering both options because what I really don't like is the fact that right now the bus actually crosses the bike lane twice. But what I also don't like is the one that pulls the bike lane around means that you don't have a straight path for the bikers. So it's a trade-off, and we're seeing what works best at this point.
And a biker may not follow
Well,
that path.
how are you going to get the buses back up to go over the Bear Cut Bridge? So buses are picking up the children on the lower level. How do they get back up?
So the bus, so
The
I'm not
public
following
bus.
the question. So the Bear Cut Bridge the Bearcat Bridge over here, the way that would likely be replaced. And so here is the viaduct, the blue. This is coming down to meet the Bearcat.
Yeah. They have to go around the
And
There's an up ramp,
if they want to go back to Miami, there is the roundabout here.
right, but there's an up ramp to get,
Yeah.
So the viaduct is coming down to meet the Bearcat at this age.
But from the ground level?
The buses to go to Key Biscayne, if they're on the lower level right here, this one doesn't have the viaduct. So you're coming down here, you go around the roundabout, where there's a roundabout, a regular intersection, and then you go into this one-lane ramp,
that's the one lane up. ramp up.
continue on the left-hand side, and then you join the Bearcat Bridge, and then continue to Key Biscayne. And then if you're on a pedal bike, it will be on the outside, and then connected over here.
The only thing that I would add to that is, as many of you know, MAST, the way that that the school board designed it, one of the issues is they don't have enough parking. So there's no interior queue, there's no availability for that. As we change the parking situation and we also make it easier for students to get dropped off at different points, because right now, like, you're dropping them off at the door because you can't drop them off, half a mile from the door because it's dangerous. So once this is a different street that's a lot calmer, you're not going to have as much tension at the drop-off point. So in other schools that are on residential streets, people drop off at all different points, right? Because they feel that the children are safe to walk, half, 2 blocks or a block. So, but in our case with MASS, the parents are like right up to the door and the kid's like in the door. So it's going to be different. And you're also going to have parking around. So the other chaos that we have is the students parking across the street and playing Frogger. So you're not going to have that in the way that you have it right now with the speed. So that's why when he's saying about we're going to look at MASS to see what are the opportunities to enter at different points. Because when the campus is no longer right up on the Rickenbacker, now you have some green space and you have a footprint where people can land there from different points, and you don't have everyone at the same conflict point to get in and to get out.
And there'll be significantly less cars too.
Of course, and they'll be moving slower, and they'll be able to walk and, and do
And the
different things.
intersection also got reduced to only 4 lanes. It is a wide median, and again, the reason for the wide median is to allow for flexibility of where the piers can be, potential left turn lanes. So the median serves a purpose.
And so that's the engineering term. Planning term is a pedestrian refuge zone, right?
It sounds so nice.
Which is the reason why, in part,
This will be the pedestrian refuge. They can come over here. They don't need to make it all in one shot. It'll be just cross 2 lanes first, stop, and then cross 2 lanes again.
Commissioner, going back to your school board days, I'm not sure if you remember, but there was a thought of maybe using the rowing center for the students to park.
Yeah.
Is that still possible, keeping them from having to go across the road?
I think the city of Miami, I think there's now different possibilities, right? There's also, I think the city of Miami is in a different place, and I think that's all on the table. I mean, there's a lot, the parking conversation will be different once the users are different. So I think once the use of the road is different, everyone can kind of open up about parking and when they're going to be using it. So I think those are all things that we can explore. I even think there could be, we can find a place for the teacher parking and maybe do, to Juan's point, you could do like a cut for the buses or something, right? You can give them a little bit of that space.
More space inside, yes.
Right, so that they go kind of into the campus a little bit, right, before they come back out. So I know that the city of Miami is looking at that entire footprint now, and that's why we'll also see what's going to happen with the Marine Stadium, because there is a world in which the parking lot of the Marine Stadium is a parking lot and not the actual Marine Stadium, right? Because that's like the weird thing about when we talk about the Marine Stadium, like The actual Marine Stadium is not being used because they haven't fixed it. So they use the parking lot, and that's what we deal with. But imagine a world in which the parking lot is just a parking lot, and then you have the Marine Stadium being used as it once was. That would be a dramatically different condition from what we have been subjected to over the past few years.
Is there any consideration to make it more bike-friendly for the kids on the key to actually ride their bikes to Mass? Because it just seems for some reason that there's sort of a disincentive right now for the kids to ride their bikes. And
Agree.
And the bike path itself, it's just, there's
It's a little dangerous.
There's the crossovers and people feel uncomfortable because of the speeds of the vehicles. I mean, you probably don't let your kids ride their bikes to school.
No, we don't want them even crossing the street to get like a taco.
Right,
I
so-
mean, it's dangerous. So yeah, I think once it is a residential street that has a bike path and has a different speed, I think everyone's gonna have different feelings about how the kids get there, when they get off, when the parents circle off, and the bicycles and the scooters.
Okay, so moving on from Mass Academy, the next part is basically from Arthur Lamb Junior Road to the Bear Cut Bridge. All of this is kind of treated as like one continuous segment because they're kind of interconnected. And then you got the Miami Sea Aquarium over here. The thought at this point is that this becomes a main intersection, and then you got Virginia Beach Drive, that we will have to do a little bit of a relocation of that one to be able to provide the distance. And this is where we're right now kind of stuck in our analysis is we've laid out a horizontal that we think works. Now we're starting to look at, there's not a long distance from here to the Bearcat Bridge to get that vertical to work. And that's kind of what we're working on, that vertical geometry. It's going to be more of a road, it's going to be about a 6% grade, right? So it will be primarily for cars. But then everybody on the local road at the bottom will be ground level and then connected to the Bearcat Bridge. The Bearcat Bridge replacement, the PD&E study that they have right now, they have about 4 different alternatives. The one that we're looking at that is more compatible to ours is a lower bridge replacement, not a high-level bridge replacement, but they are raising it over the existing bridge, about 8 feet or so is their latest concept. And then they're coming down here and then connecting to the existing Virginia Key. So this is where we are spending a lot of our time, is to try to find, so sorry, real quick. So you got the Arthur Lamb over here, I skipped over. I do need to realign it a little bit to try to bring into a more 90-degree turn into the 4-lane curve and gutter section. So again, control the speed, make it so that we can have a better intersection, not a skew intersection. I showed this to the county. They did not have a concern with the way we were doing it. Again, there's a lot of room for refinement, but the idea is to realign the intersection. It goes a little bit ways into the park entrance, but the county was not concerned with this. We're staying within the right-of-way. There could be opportunities to redefine that a little bit. The good news is that the sewer line kind of comes over here and then takes a north path into the water treatment plant, into the treatment plant. So from this point on, the sewer line does not become, it starts becoming an issue for us. In terms of this aquarium, here's where it gets a little tricky for us, and depending on what we learn more about their plan, is the close proximity of the Virginia Beach Drive and Arthur Lamb intersection. For them to have another major intersection in between may be a traffic issue. I'm not a traffic engineer, but just from a close proximity of the 2 intersections, that may not be a good design. And maybe this becomes their main entrance instead of, right now I believe they're trying to, this is the existing main entrance to this aquarium. You know, it might make more sense from our concept to move it. It may not work for theirs. So we haven't had an opportunity to interact with them on that note. So that's still an area to be, they can still maintain maybe a right in, right out. You know, we can accommodate that, but not a full left turns into the redevelopment. Moving over here, this is the UM campus, Virginia Beach Drive. Again, we showed this to the county. They understood that we need to shift the intersection a little bit. They had also thought about doing the same thing. Here's where the viaduct, again, it comes from the middle. And these lines right here, these are straddles. We're going to have to go from a center supported pier into a straddle. It's not the best looking thing. I think they're cool, but I'm not one. One may not like the straddles. But this is going to be a necessary evil to be able to separate the bridge on the viaduct, go to the outside, open up the space in the middle, so the local roadway can then join in the middle of the barricade bridge, while the pets and bikes join on the outside, and it removes that conflict when the two are coming together. From here on,
So Javi, before you go,
yes,
and maybe this is the first time I saw this there, is that coming down to grade there right in front of UM in order to
Bear cut?
intersect with the, yeah.
bear cut. So bear cut right now is kind of their apex of like the vertical geometry kind of is at a high point over here, and then it starts to come down. They're slightly elevated from the existing. The only thing is that they're trying to come down to connect to the existing Virginia Beach Drive. So, and here's where lies the conflict that we're trying to resolve. They're going to, from a logical construction funding, if everything goes well, all the money in the world is available, there's a very high likelihood that the Bearcat Bridge will be replaced first. Shoreline will come in later. So we're trying to come up with a way that we are compatible with each other. But that means that they have to connect to an existing intersection, and then I have to connect to a replaced Bearcat
They
Bridge.
got to build for now.
They got to build for
that's
now,
what
and then
we're
I got to tie into their future. And that's what we're trying to kind of work together in doing so.
And one of the most critical things that we're working on right now, and that's partly the reason why we're meeting with them so much, and as a layperson, the way that I understand it is that they're looking at how high, and they're also looking at how, they, in the horizontal also. And so we're trying to be as flexible as possible so that we meet. Think of it as a tunnel going through a mountain. You want to make sure both tunnels meet. And because we want to be flexible and we want to make sure that we can come in to this later, we want to make sure that whatever they decide to do now, we plan for it for the shoreline, and so that both infrastructure projects will meet in the right place. So we've gone from a little higher to a little lower from them, and Javier is changing things to ensure that both things meet.
Here's where we're spending a lot of time right now. Juliana from my team and I are working on this. So the bridge over here will be at a high point, getting over this intersection, and then we start to come down. For our purposes, we're sort of like the Bearcat Bridge will be ground level, sort of, and then we're trying to connect to the Bearcat Bridge. And then the lower roads over here will be slightly higher than what the existing roadway is today, and then there will probably be slightly climbing up to connect to the Bearcat Bridge. So this is the part that we're trying to at least have a workable profile. It will probably not be finalized, but it's to at least have a good level of confidence that will work, and then provide that to the county for them to validate it and that they feel comfortable with that connection.
Is there a minimum DOT height that you have to maintain, like for fire trucks and things like that, 14 feet clear or something like that? So when you have to harmonize these two things, is that
right? So we have a couple of things working, against us from a vertical, and I would love to make this as low as possible, but then from a beautification part of it, you may want to make it higher because you don't want it to feel constrained and then to be too low. So by default, this is going to be just because of the way the geometry is working. We're going to be up 30 feet up in the air or so, probably a little bit more, to try to come down. And the good thing is this strata right here will be a constraint, and then the shoulders over here will be a constraint. Those are the things that we're looking into to be kind of coming down to a feasible profile. The good news in all of this is what you see here up to maybe somewhere over here. My outside edge lines match the outside edge lines of the Bearcat replacement. What I'm trying to work with them, and I show this to them, is to see if the county will be amenable to build out the flare out of the Bearcat Bridge. Right now, theirs is basically a straight shot, which means I will have to come in and do some widening out here, and some...
because they don't have the internal ramps.
Right, they don't have their internal ramps that we would need to have the left-hand entrance and exits. Their typical section is a little bit different. They have a shoulder, a barrier, a bike lane, and a shared use path. When we come in and to be able to fit what we need to fit, we're basically going to eat into that typical section that they would have, and we'll be left with just the shared use path on the outside because we will need that space. Unless there's a decision later to provide a little bit additional widening, and then we could provide the full typical that they will provide today. So, but if there will be no widening on the bear cut, we'll be reducing the amenities that they will be providing. If we do decide to provide the amenities that they have, we just need to make the bear cut bridge a little bit wider. One constraint that we have is right here. This northern edge of the existing bridge is as far north as we could go because of the petrified mangroves. The petrified mangroves are over here, and it's a big no for us to go any further than this edge over here. And then it allows us to connect to the existing over here.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but if the bridge is replaced, is there an intention to extend it when it lands back on the land further?
I don't think
From
there
the
is.
bank?
I think they're trying to match as much as possible the existing bridge limits of the beginning of the bridge and the end of the bridge. Their intent is to match it as close as possible to it. And then what they'll do is, if you see here, they have a little bit of an offset because they got to do a phase construction. So they're going to build out the eastbound first, put traffic there, build the other side, and then shift the traffic over. So they're going to build the bridge wider than it is today because they need to be able to build it in phases. And then that would allow us to then repurpose that deck if we do not want to continue to provide the additional amenities that they are going to provide. As I move on to Crandon Park, go ahead.
So I would just jump in really quick. So it's interesting because when we talked to the county, we're like, we don't want you to widen the Rickenbacker, but can you please widen the Bear Cut? Right? I mean, that's literally the conversation, right? Because we don't want more lanes, but we don't want to shrink the amenities once you get to the Bear Cut.
And the main reason for that we need to take that on is because we do have the left-hand entrance and end of the ramps. We need to have the space to allow for the cars to get in, accelerate or decelerate. And as we go into the Bear Cut, over here, what we produce over here is kind of like a Crandon Park Marina bypass, following the same concept. So if you wanted to continue on and bypass the Crandon Park Marina, you can continue to do that. You elevate, you have one single bridge over the entrance, then you continue on. And if you're in the Crandon Park Marina, if you want to go to the Key Biscayne, you go under, go into the median. If you want to go to Miami, you cross over. Sorry, I was doing European turns there. So you turn here, you go into the middle, and then if you are on Key Biscayne, coming from Key Biscayne, you can bypass the Crandon Park Marina intersection. You just kind of continue on. The beauty of this is all of this can be at grade. The only thing that will be elevated is we need to do a grade separation at this intersection over here. The negative on this, it has an opposite effect to what we're doing on the Virginia Key. In Virginia Key, we are eliminating pavement, adding green space. Here, in order to be able to build this bypass, we'll be filling in the median. So there will be a drainage concern of how we could make that up in the area of the Crandon Park Marina.
But keeping with the boundaries or keeping with the existing edge of the pavement. In other words, we are adding pavement in the median for these turns, but the edges where the current pavement is would not change, which I think that's also critical.
You're coming from the Key, you're coming over here, you have a decision point. Do I want to go to Crandon Park Marina, take the left lane, go into the middle, and then go into the Crandon Park Marina? If you want to continue on, you just continue on. And then same thing in the opposite direction.
Are you dealing with this sort of queuing effect for the boats too? Is that the same?
Yeah, it could be queuing effects, or it could be if you want to separate the traffic. Again, this could be one of those things where it could also be phase implemented. One does not rely on the other. So, if you want to talk about phase implementation, replace the Bearcat Bridge, build the Shoreline, and then build the Crandon Park bypass, or build the Crandon Park bypass, then the Shoreline. I mean, that could be more of a master planning discussion, or you don't do one or the other. So the beauty of it is one side of Bearcat is they're like, could be two complete separate. The only item that we had to discuss is the ramps in the middle to be able to have the space for them at any given time. And that is it.
And just as a reminder, if people are asking why the ramps in the middle, again, I'll say it again, because we have the bike lanes on the outside, so we want cars getting in and out within the inside so that there's no conflict, right? So that's the main reason for those ramps.
When you last made a presentation to us, you were still in the problem-solving stage of emptying the traffic onto US 1 and I-95. Are you still
That's not,
thinking about that, or dealing with that, or
that will be
have I gotten
beyond.
that far?
You might be mixing the county's presentation.
Yes, that's the
Okay.
county. The county's
Yeah.
dealing with that, what happens at 26 Road and the pickle, and, how do we get
Right.
people like
Right.
down and out? So that's a conversation that's happening with the city of Miami.
Okay.
And their new commissioner. So that's like ongoing, but that is more about an immediate fix. And one of the things that we've presented to the city regarding the shoreline is that you're not going to have that bottleneck that you have now. The
Right.
reason that intersection gets so out of control is because of the bottleneck that's created when everyone's coming in and out at the same time. So the shoreline allows us to program it a little bit differently so that people can kind of linger at the bottom and leave at staggered times, fixing the two main problems that we have with the city of Miami and Crandon Beach and Bill Baggs, which is everyone exiting, at the exact same time.
Yeah, this would be matching existing conditions over here, so that we would not be going beyond into the Powell Bridge or the other side.
Thank you.
All right?
There was a concept at one point that was shared with us of the Bear Cup Bridge being built around the current bridge to reduce disruption during construction. Is that no longer on the table,
So,
and why?
at some point we had basically twin bridges, one on either side of it. The main reason we are no longer doing that, one is because the county has eliminated that as an option because of
Because
the
of the one
petrified
side,
mangroves on this side.
Okay.
And since they are no longer moving forward with that concept,
It wasn't gonna come back in
it would,
narrow enough. Yeah, it was too wide.
And to add to that, we haven't really seen, they're still working on it. What we have heard from them during our meetings is that they're still going to build it in phases to mitigate the impact of the building. Now, that's still the county is working on that, so we
the
are just
phase-
adopting what they're,
And the phase that they share with me basically is they would build they will shift all the traffic on one side so they're going to build all of this. They're going to shift traffic over, demo part of the existing, build out so they can then shift all 4 lanes over, demo, and then finish the widening. So the idea is that there will always be 4 lanes of traffic on the Bearcat Bridge and then one way of the pedestrian to be able to fit
So from the county perspective, lesson learned from the William Powell, right? So we don't want to repeat the same mistake. We try to make different mistakes. So there's that. And then there was some concern about, again, the mangroves, but also what would you do with the bridge if you didn't take it down? Like if you just left it there, like what? Yeah, what would you do? Turning it into something, but they were concerned about the potential impact that, demolishing it when you had the built structure
Or even additional
or
shade.
even additional, right? Yeah, yeah.
All right, so if there's no more questions on the road plot, I know Juan's got a few more slides to go over. Again, what you see out here, the road plots over, the big one is over here, and then we try to have some close-ups on each of the segments around the room, so I'll be around if there's any questions, so.
Do you have any section views of this? Or is
No.
it all plan views?
No, they're all plan views right now. The only section view that I have is this right here from a general, what it's gonna look like, and it's basically that for the entire length.
When it harmonizes to the Powell Bridge, that's the part I was trying.
So that's the next thing that we're gonna work on, is trying to get the profiles to work. This straddle right here is my pinch point. This is gonna like make me go up 40 feet up in the air to be able to clear that straddle, which is what I will need to do from an engineering perspective, but then it allows you to then open up the space underneath it so it doesn't feel that you have a ceiling with the with this. And then we're also assuming that you will have a conventional hammerhead. This may look a little bit different, but that you will have a hammerhead, which again is going to put the beams higher. So it should open up the space underneath it instead of not look like the old 395 through Overtown, which was very shallow, dark, and not a lot of room for doing anything underneath it. So the idea for this is going to be to go high. I'm going to be forced to go high anyways, and then it's going to open up that space, and then we'll maintain it high and then come down on the bear cut. That's the idea.
All right, so lucky for all of us, I'm just reiterating what we've already said, but I just wanted to for you guys to take notice of the amount of space that we're creating. We've spoken about this already. This is the area in front of this aquarium. You can see more than half of the right-of-way is being turned into permeable area. And honestly, just to reiterate, I think, I can happily report that our design maintains and continues with the objectives in working with the county. So little by little, we've been able to build that relationship and ensuring that we can dovetail between their project and ours. And with that, Euless.
In terms of square feet, say 160%. What numbers that come up?
In some places, so we're still working on that because we are just getting the right location for the viaduct, and that really gives us the amount of room. But if you want to take a look at what some of this looks like, if you look at the area, I can't really point with this, but if you look at the area that's existing in terms of the amount of beach that is being provided, minus the parking, minus the lanes, minus all of these things that we are actually now recapturing, it's between 100 and 150 to above in terms of the amount of depth of space.
Now, how many square feet are we talking about?
We don't know that yet, but in the next workshop, I will be able to report it.
Juan, didn't you, and I could be way off on this number, but I recall something like 300 acres.
How many?
Am I way off, or am I just dreaming this?
I've never done that calculation. That wasn't from me. But I will because
I'm
I
going to
think
go back
that,
and check out the
no,
presentation.
but I think that you're absolutely right, and you're right to ask that question because I think that that's an incredible
It's a huge amount of space.
number to provide. I don't think, and in fact, I was telling this to somebody else the other day, I don't think that there's any infrastructure project today in the United States that adds this much permeable
On
space while
average,
building a roadway.
how much wider or how much area, say on a particular cut, in other words, right now, say 150 feet, 500 feet wide, how much wider will it be now with usable space?
For the usable space?
Yeah.
I don't have the number yet, and it varies because the beach profile also varies. And part of the answer will have to come also by assessing our technical assessment report because there's erosion, right? And so part of the question will be, and this is again outside of the current scope, but whether or not the county decides to replenish some of that sand, and that profile will then therefore change as well.
Well, we're taking up blacktop, right? To be usable space.
Yes.
So do we know how much blacktop we're taking up?
I'll try to do a quick shape here.
Well, but take it with a grain of salt. This is a current
Sorry?
snapshot. Take it with a grain of salt because right now it's a current snapshot.
Can't hear him.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
He thinks you're just take it with you
Wherever you go. Juan,
He thinks you're talking about tequila.
Yeah, I think the answer is that we'll have to do some additional analysis and we'll be able to come back with at least a relative sense of how much will be available for the public space. So thanks for your patience here. As we close out, I just want to indicate how well we've been coordinating with the county agency. So as you heard from our team, we've come a long way with the Department of Transportation and Public Works, and so we're working quite well with them. And as they proceed with their PD&E study for Bear Cut, we're making sure that our project is aligning with that effort. We continue to work with WASD on the utility standpoint as well as with pros, but more importantly, along with with Commissioner Regalado, we've been setting up meetings with several of the different city commissioners to provide briefings. All of those meetings have gone well. We've met with Commissioner Escalona. Also, I know we've been talking to Commissioner Pardo. We're planning to sit down with all of the city commissioners, Commissioner King, as well as Commissioner Gabella and Rosado as well. So we're scheduling those meetings as we move forward. And then also, as you've heard, we are coordinating with all of the major development projects along the corridor to make sure as we advance our design that that's being contemplated for future development projects such as Sequarium as well as a Marine Stadium. So with that being said, that wraps up our technical discussions for this evening. So we'll kind of open it up for additional Q&A. And again, we do have the hard copy roll plots here for folks to be able to provide comments. But we're done with the technical portion. If any additional questions that you have, please let us know and we'll be here to answer them. All right.
Could you come to the mic, please, and say your name and address? Thank you.
He says no.
All right.
He says no.
I was helpful.
Nice question.
Hello, check. Hey, Tom McCormick, 680 Curtis Wood. I also am helping the foundation with some of the stakeholder outreach. I just had two questions and one comment. I myself, surprisingly to some of you, am not a long-distance performance cyclist. So Pelotons are something that come up a lot around here, and I'm completely ignorant. Do we expect the Pelotons are going to go up to the top level, up to the top level, and keep flying? So 40 miles.
They want to ride with the cars. Let them ride.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll keep that in mind when I'm at the spandex store. Next, the Bear Cut. There's alternatives 2 and 4, and I get all mixed up in that. I know that from a key resident perspective, storm hardening through some kind of elevation of the Bear Cut is important. And is that part? I know that's not Shoreline. I know that's the Bear Cut project, but is that contemplated in the leading? So that's great. So we're still going to see a higher Bear Cut bridge because I understand it's storm surge more than wind we worry about with the Bear Cut bridge. So the only way is up. So that's good. And then the last thing is just a comment. We all care here on the Key about the traffic. And at this point, we actually site-specific events, right? Remember when Mike Davey let him do Ultra on Virginia Key, Bunny Palooza,
Stop performing.
Bunny Palooza, the shooting on the big bridge, we
Magic
literally.
Mike. There was Magic Mike. Remember Magic
There's
Mike?
no reason. I'm not besmirching Magic Mike. But we literally name these traffic events, right? And I don't hear a lot, you all know, but I don't hear a lot around the Key recognition that, and correct me, Commissioner, if I get this wrong, but I think by a 5-0 vote, the City of Miami Commission approved putting on the ballot for this year the award or some step to bring in a new operator of a renovated Miami Marine Stadium. And I think that operator is even the outfit that runs the Red Rocks and some of these great. So the good news is we're going to have a fantastic operator and bring that site back to its glory. The bad news is it's not just Ultra once in a while. It's maybe every Friday and Saturday night, there's going to be something there. So with stormwater, there was years of arguing about how much the seas were going to rise, and nobody really knows. But we do sort of know that the Miami Marine Stadium is going to be utilized far more often than it is now. So that's a certainty, I think. I mean, I'm not a prognosticator, but it goes to referendum. Something's going to happen there. So the importance of getting the 28,000 cars up on the upper deck there, it's not doing nothing is not going to happen. Doing nothing is just letting them commercialize the Marine Stadium, maybe 100 events a year, and us living with a constant Bunny Palooza, right? That's what we used to call the Sequarium Easter event, right? But so I don't hear a lot of folks on the Key even marginally aware that that's going to happen. So I think that's one of the reasons I, speaking for myself, am so personally satisfied about this option, because where the Marine Stadium goes is where we're really at risk if we don't do anything. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'll see you on the
Agree. And
road.
the other thing I would add to that is we did bake into the RFP and what was approved by the city of Miami, the transit plan that we worked with the county, because one of the problems that we have with those events is like that we would get the permit like Friday at 4 o'clock for the event on Saturday, and then all hell breaks loose. So yes, there's potentially going to be more events, but I think there are a different class of events. Right now, because the Marine Stadium has been relatively dormant, our bigger issues have been the large events at Virginia Key. And then we got to deal with that. Like, what's the plan with the Virginia Key? Now we have one operator for the Marine Stadium. We need to figure out who is the operator for Virginia Key. And then how are the two going to coexist? Because sometimes they'll do two things. And then at the same time, it's a long weekend. And then Crandon and Bill Baggs and the whole thing. And then they decide that the show starts at 6:45, right? So everyone's coming in and going out at the exact same time. So those are the logistics that now that we have Damien, there's been a lot more conversations and more connectivity. When my father was the mayor of the city of Miami, the Key used to get a lot more information as to the events and what was happening with a lot more proactivity, we'll say. So that's one of the things that we're trying to navigate now, and have the county also get more information about transit. Our office is working on signage. So we have a whole initiative as to signage and giving people information before they even get on the Rickenbacker. So there's a series of hurdles that we're jumping through to get that approved. But the idea is if Bill Baggs is closed, I need you to know before you pay the toll when you get all the way down there, and then you call me angry. So so there's a series of things there that we're trying to work out. And then also notice for the events in a better way so that everybody knows. So, but it's a work in progress.
Commissioner Regal, why did the boat show work so well?
Because it's staggered,
'Cause
so it's the same thing. It doesn't have like a headliner.
Right.
And that's the conversations that we've had with the Seaquarium and with all the stakeholders. Like, please do not do a headline, because that's the issue. The traffic plan that we baked into the Marine Stadium was actually born of the boat show.
Yeah, because it worked fantastic. I mean,
So we took the
it really
boat show.
worked well.
Yeah, we took the boat show and what they did, and we kind of tweaked it a little, and we made that the baseline of the Marine Stadium. So now the Marine Stadium could do more, but they cannot go beyond that bare minimum that the boat show did. And then we're trying to figure out with them, because they just want to monetize the space. Sure. How can they monetize it without driving everyone in and out at the same time? So could they do smaller events throughout the day? Could they do different events at different parts? So those are all the things that we're working out with them now.
I mean, the water taxis were a big part of that solution.
The water taxis would be very helpful.
I do want to give credit where credit is due, because the county DTBW actually did a very good job this year in putting together a task team. I found out a task force is something else in the county. They couldn't use that word. I don't even want to know why. But anyway, this task team was obviously the county, it was us, and the city was on board. So the combination between all three of us and, of course, the historic beach, we had a lot of rain this year, so, the cops loved it. But for the rest of us, it was a much better year, and I think a lot of it's because of coordination. And we'll find out in the future if that continues to work that way. Tom, a couple questions I wanted to answer you on the bridge, because I did have the experience of going out to Sanibel and seeing what happened after the storm. I think it was Hurricane Ian out there. So what they're showing right now with Alternative 2, which they go there, is 8 feet higher, pretty significantly higher. Obviously, we'll get better pier structure. The most important thing, though, is the embankment. The embankment,
Well,
yeah.
that's what my
The improvement on the
question was,
embankment
right.
is because what really went out in Sanibel was the embankment. Basically, it just ate around on the excuse me, on the ramp area and just took down the bridges. Actually, the bridge in the center stayed up, but on the shoreline it came down. So I think that's important for us to know. 8 feet is pretty significantly higher. You can imagine that's the height of the ceiling.
So Steve, you're talking about when the bridge came down, the area where you were coming up to the bridge is what got washed out, that section,
Where it connects to the land.
to the land.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so the embankment where on the land, you've got the ramp here and the bridge goes out, the embankment right here. They didn't have much of an embankment out in Sanibel, so it was easily ate away and took down the structure of the bridge. Ours are okay out there, they're not great, but I'm sure the new construction is gonna require much more significant embankment on there.
All right. No further questions. I think we're done. I'll turn it back over to the city manager, Steve.
I've got nothing else, but Vice Mayor, you have any more questions? Any member of the community? Sassy, I know you got a question.
Underline is looking good.
We're not gonna touch the trees, so we're all good with that.
It is really,
There'll be a lot more to it.
and people are using it.
So Euless will let you plug the underline really quick, because Frank's talking about how good it's looking.
Yeah,
So,
when
you know, when we first talked to Key Biscayne about the underline, they were like, the under what? But now, as we get into like phase 2 and 3, you're starting to see it. And Euless hasn't even like really activated it yet. But if you can give us a quick update on your other baby.
Right. So we actually just passed a milestone this past week. On Monday, we had a ribbon cutting to signify the opening of segment 4, which puts us at over 5 miles of the 10 miles of the underline. And so the project is progressing very well. This allows 5 continuous miles from Burkle and Miami River all the way to Douglas Road, essentially. We should be done with all 10 miles by late September or early October. So we're excited about that. The calendar year, how about that? We'll be done by this calendar year. We have to be done. And so we're excited, and as the commissioner made mention of, we're really focused on providing some premium programming and services and initiatives over the next couple of months. So you're going to be hearing more about all the activities that we have going on in the underline. So really, the last time I think we got together, you guys were all out and enjoyed the trip, and as well as the tour of the underline. But we want you to come back and experience it even more, because this is the opportunity that you can really take hold and see how the Shoreline integrates in with the underline
I
moving
think
forward.
council should go on bikes this time.
I like that. We have our bike sharing program, so we put you on bikes and
Ulysses,
ride
I've
up
been
and
riding
down.
that from here to Coral Gables pretty routinely, and it's
Okay.
it's amazing. It works perfect. I mean,
Great.
even the lights are relatively timed so that you don't end up waiting at the stop signs, which is pretty. And the amount of people that are riding is pretty impressive. And just to ride from here to Coral Gables, it's 45 minutes. It's really not
And
that
people
big.
are coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, so I've been like in North Miami-Dade recently, and people like in Miami Lakes and all these different
Yeah.
places are telling me that they're like driving to the Grove and driving here and driving there so they can bike the underline. So it's wonderful.
Yeah,
And
we've
the
been
new
collecting
park,
more
the
data. Yeah, we've been collecting more data, and in fact, our intern here, Jesus, has been focused on doing that. And what we're finding is that we're capturing people from all over the county. Far north there's Miami Gardens, and far south as Homestead that are coming to the underline. So it's turning into a real good economic generator, a venue where people want to come and visit.
So Yos, there's a reason why we hired you, so we appreciate it. Don't screw it
Okay.
up. But no, I really appreciate. Look, this, just to let everyone in the community know, we communicate on a regular basis. We're back and forth communicating with Juan on the team, Javi on the team. We've been looking this over day in and day out. So I appreciate what you do. Appreciate moving forward. We've got a little bit more work to do, and I really appreciate, Commissioner, the leadership you're giving us in coordinating and. In the end, this is about selling this thing. And I think we all know we have a great product. We just need to find the team and the people to sell this thing. So appreciate your support, and we're going to make this happen. I think you also got one more point he wants to make before we close.
I would be remiss if I did not give a shout out to Tom, who is a part of our team. He's technically not on the team, but
So those questions were
he's
planned.
involved. I was like, we're gonna have a conversation after this, Tom. But
to get me away from the microphone.
but Tom has been very helpful in our project team meetings. He's representing the community foundation, and so he's also going to help support us on a lot of the outreach along the corridor. So then when did not want to forget about you, Tom, so thanks for your help there.
One of Tom's points, in addition to a great plan, is a real need.
He wants to be the next Peloton.
Yeah. I want to see the spandex, Tom.
Next Peloton.
Thank you.
Starting a team.
So with that thought, that closes the night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.